All right. And here we are. We are on location at RSA Conference. I am Sean Martin, host of the Redefining Cybersecurity Podcast on ITSPmagazine. And as you know, if you listen to my show, I get to talk to cool people about cool things. I love innovation. I love development. I love seeing great things come together. I kind of know this space because I worked in this space many years ago. And it's great what you're doing, Dror. I'm thrilled to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And for those of you who pay attention, they'll already know we've had a chat. So we did a few minutes where we kind of talked about the breadth of the Coro solution, that it's multi-modular, covering a lot of things at the endpoint, really providing control and protection at every level needed for an organization, but in an affordable way.
Exactly.
And an easy to manage way.
Exactly.
And so I would encourage everybody to listen to that because we talk about that big picture in that episode. So we'll point folks back to that. What I want to do today, because I think the other point I didn't mention is smaller organizations that don't have staff, right? This is a big point. Don't have the staff, don't have the skills necessarily to manage all that stuff. That's where you come in with the solution and with your partners to help. So I want to spend more time on some of the modules and relate that back to some of the threats organizations are facing, some of the challenges they have, addressing those threats, and then managing an endpoint solution to overcome and clear those threats out of the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know, pick one and we'll start there, and then I'll take us on the journey.
Awesome. So if you don't mind, I'd like to give a little bit of a higher level first.
Okay, please do.
Just to get...
yeah, perfect.
So as you mentioned, Coro is the first purpose-built platform for the mid-market and small businesses. And you asked about the threats. And small businesses and mid-market companies face the exact same threats that the enterprise do. As a matter of fact, what we've seen in the last couple of years is a shift from attackers going more after the mid-market and small businesses than they are going after the enterprise, simply because it's easier.
Yeah.
Right? They are not as protected, and they're very vulnerable, and attackers, criminals, love that vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, first of all, they're just as vulnerable as the enterprise is, they're just as susceptible to attacks, and they're facing all of these attacks. Add to that the fact that my customers normally are somewhere in the supply chain. So they're never at the top of the supply chain, they're somewhere in the supply chain. The people at the top of the supply chain now are being regulated heavily from a cybersecurity perspective. What does that do? That regulation trickles downstream. So my guy, even though he might be running a 300 truck logistics operation, now needs to comply with SEC rules on cybersecurity because his the organization he supplies services to needs to comply. So now he needs to comply.
So they're a third or fourth or nth party. Where's your SOC 2? Where's your whatever it is?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Show me that you have cyber insurance. Well, to go get cyber insurance, you need to show the cyber insurance company that you have
all this stuff.
Cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we are in existence. We're there to protect those that were completely overlooked by this entire industry. We're sitting in the middle of RSA here with hundreds of vendors.
We called it a monster the other day.
The monster. And this entire industry has been focused only on the enterprise and trying to shove an enterprise product down this mid-market or small business throat. And so I always say that they'd gladly take my customers' money, but they don't want to build something that is right for them.
Right.
And that's really what we've done.
Yeah.
So going around the modules, we look at things as areas of protection. So we have 14 different modules. You can buy each one of them separately. But we also have suites, and the suites are more business-oriented. So for example, one suite covers everything you might need to have to protect email. So it's not just ransomware and malware, it's also data governance in the email. It's also having a gateway. It's also being able to send and receive encrypted emails. So within one suite, you're able to do everything that you might need from an email protection and regulatory compliance perspective.
What would they need if they didn't get it from Coro? What would that scenario look like for most?
Great question. Great question. So they'll need an email protection suite from, say, Proofpoint.
Okay.
They'll need DLP for email, which we'll get from some other vendor. They'll need email encryption capabilities, which is another vendor. And all of those not only end up being expensive, but they don't communicate with each other. And now
why is that important?
Well,
what happens
for two
if they
reasons.
don't? Okay.
One is, if they don't communicate with each other, that means you now rely on a human to look at them and understand something is happening here, and I need to manage this, and it impacts something that is happening here. So now you rely on a human. For the enterprise, that's not a problem. Or it is, but it's much lesser of a problem because they have a large cybersecurity team. In that large cybersecurity team, they have an email security team that can do that triage. My customer has Jim in IT.
Right. Not a security person.
Not a security person, hardworking, overworked, I would say, who does everything for the organization and also cybersecurity. So you expect him to also do the triage and arbitrage between the different systems and do the integration between the different systems and sit there and analyze all of these thousands of alerts that these systems are sending at him.
Right.
We just ran a survey with 400 IT directors in companies that are mid-market, 200 to 2,000 employees. One of the questions we've asked was about alerts.
Right.
73% of them admitted that they either ignored or missed critical alerts. Now that's not because they're bad at their job. That's because they are busy managing security platforms and tools instead of protecting.
Right.
And that's really where we come in and we change the game completely.
So we'll get to some of the other suites, but I want to stay on this for a moment. The configuration of those things. You mentioned interacting with each other.
Yeah.
One change here can impact how something works over there. You might not get the alert if you don't configure it correctly. Maintaining it, updating it. This is software we're talking about, right? They need to be updated with rules. I don't know. New capabilities, new threats. You have to respond
Absolutely.
to that stuff. And then, of course, you have to have it presentable in a way where somebody can actually do something with what that system or multiple things, if you buy it from separate places, give you, and then again make sense of it. So, talk to me about how Coro helps with those three things. So basically, well, we didn't touch on deployment. So deployment, configuration, management, maintenance, and then the response piece.
That's a great question, really, because it goes to the crux of the big difference between an SMB, a mid-market company, and the enterprise. So when we asked in the survey, how long does it take you to operationalize a new cybersecurity product? The answer was 4.1 months on average. 4.1 months of work to get that done.
Across not yours, I'm saying, but if you did that with 14.
And now multiply that by 14, right? We asked them.
We'll just do 2.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what they end up doing. That's exactly, you nailed it. What do? They say, okay, I only have time and I only have budget to deal with 2 things. So I'm going to place a bet and say email and endpoint, and that's what I'm going to protect, and everything else, I'm going to hope things are going to be okay.
Right.
So for us, deployment, and I know it's going to sound very hard to believe, but thousands of customers would tell you that, and if you read our G2 reviews, that's what they say in the G2 reviews. For us, deployment is about an hour for all 14 modules.
Okay.
You have one endpoint agent that you need to manage for all 14 modules. Nice. So you don't need to now deploy 4 different endpoint agents and then deal with the discrepancies between them. And when one of them gets updated, the other 2 stop working and all that stuff. None of that. You don't need to deal or think about new threats or new rules that are coming up because it's a cloud-based platform and we take care of it in the background. So for example, if the privacy rules in Vermont change, We change them on your behalf. You don't need to do it. So we are all in the business of removing workload from people who are already overworked and overburdened to machines, to our machines. So deployment is a breeze. Within an hour, you can have our entire system up and running, configured, running, and protecting.
Nice.
Right? You deploy one endpoint agent to the clients, and that endpoint agent is self-healing and self-preserving. What does that mean? That means that as we release new functionality, the endpoint agent automatically gets updated. You don't need to deal with redistribution or anything. So again, removing workload. Our job is to remove workload. If an attacker...
What about if the environment changes? OSs update all the time. Right?
Exactly. So if the OS gets updated, if the environment gets updated, we take care of it for you. You don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Because my thinking and our thinking as a company is, Jim in IT is a hardworking, good guy. He doesn't have the time to keep up. And the 73% that I've just mentioned before is an example of that.
Right.
He wants to, but he just can't keep up.
Right.
So what we've done was we moved 95% of the workload to the machines, so he can focus only on the 5% that are truly important.
Right. Sorry, I think you were heading to monitoring and response. Were you?
Yeah. So one of the things that is also very important is normally an IT person will need to manage 5-6 different dashboards. With us, it's one pane of glass that covers all 14 modules. Very simple. If you, I know that you've seen our product online, so we work on simplicity. My guy doesn't have time to deal with complex, hard to understand dashboard. So the dashboard tells him exactly what he needs to do and what is important at this moment. It's one screen that they need to go and learn. And as they add more modules, there's no learning curve. Right? Because it's that same platform. And as they add more modules, the endpoint agent gets updated as well. So they don't need to do redeployment of anything. So let's say, for example, they start with endpoint protection suite with us, and then in the future, when their contract with, say, Mimecast or Proofpoint expires, they move their email protection to us as well. Okay? So all they need to do is turn it on, and it works.
Nice.
No integration, no configuration, nothing that they need to do, and the endpoint agent is aware of it and knows, and now protects the emails on the endpoint as well.
Very cool. I have a ton of questions. Where do I want to go next? We'll go to more modules in a moment. I want to still talk about this idea of management and response. Where was I going to go with this? Just because they're not having to deal with all the configurations and the controls and all that, I'm sure they still have questions. Am I protected?
Yeah.
The CEO is going to want to know, am I protected from ransomware? Am I protected from denial of service? Is my email going to be sniffed and compromised? Those questions do come up. So how does what you provide help transfer that information back to the executives that want to know, and do it in a way that gives them confidence to know that what you're doing works?
So that's a great question. So first of all, in our world, management executives are the owners.
Right.
So Joe's trucking, it's Joe. And it's his business. So he cares more actually about cyber than an enterprise executive. We ran actually another survey a year and a half ago. And we asked executives all kinds of questions. One of the questions were, how often do you think about your company being attacked? In the enterprise, 63% said every day. In the mid-market and small business, 71% said every day. Because for them, it's existential. So of course, we need to give them the information and let them know that it's there. So there's an automatically generated report out of the system that shows them all the stuff that happened, all the stuff that was caught, and to give them assurance. By the way, that report is also being used to get cyber insurance, because you can show the cyber insurer, hey, here's what Coro is protecting and here's what they're doing for me. We have EDR in place, we have email protection in place, we have all the we tick all the boxes of that cyber insurance policy requirements. And by the way, some of our offerings were designed to do exactly that, to make sure that my customer can get cyber insurance easily at a reasonable premium.
Right.
Because the more boxes you tick, the more reasonable the premium becomes.
Well, you have to, it's become an interesting space, cyber insurance. You have to prove that you're able to manage cybersecurity, but with the right level.
Exactly.
Right? So there's a lot of questions, and you have to keep it updated as well.
Yeah.
And just because you get it doesn't mean you're going to get either a good premium or a good policy. So the more you can do to show and demonstrate, the better those two things are going to be for you.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So we're able to show them, hey, we're covered. It is automatically updated, as I mentioned before. We don't expect my buyer to go and proactively go and update platforms. We do it automatically on their behalf, which gives them two things. One, gives them back time. Right? But two, also gives them peace of mind, because they know that we know. We have teams that's their only focus in life, to make sure that the privacy rules are updated correctly, the new vulnerabilities that are found, the new attack vectors that are being created, the new ransomware methods are embedded in our platform, and our platform knows how to correct them, catch them, and mitigate them. So we're giving my customer what they call peace of mind.
Right.
So when we ask them,
interesting to hear how that 71 dials from
exactly.
I worry about it every day to I'm confident
I know
I'm
Coro is
okay
taking care of it
every day.
Yeah,
exactly. So we have, I think, maybe a minute or so left here. Any final thought, or any other modules you want to kind of point to as we wrap, to kind of fill the picture for folks? I think we did a good job talking about the whole workflow, and that you help kind of start to finish with everything and give that complete peace of mind. What other modules or suites do you want to highlight?
So we have 5 suites that we offer. As I said, the endpoint protection, email protection, network and access, which includes a CASB, and then we have what we call the Essential Suite, which is a little bit of each, to make sure that it's the basics. Just get the basics right for $6 a month, and you're covered per user, which is very, very aggressively priced. And then there is the Coro Complete, which is basically everything we offer for $15 a user a month, which again is incredibly attractive. So let's put this in the context of a 100-person company. That's $1,500 a month, and you're covered. You don't need to worry about it. And that is really our approach. We want this to be a no-brainer. Use Coro, be protected, don't worry about it.
Well, that $1,500 gets you more than just the protection. And the peace of mind. It gets you the simplicity.
The simplicity
and all the stuff you're doing for them behind the scenes.
Exactly.
And all the hair they're going to save.
I call it one platform, one endpoint agent, one dashboard, 0 headaches.
Nice. I love it. Well, Dror, it's been great chatting with you.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks for doing what you're doing. And everybody listening, please do connect to Dror and the Coro team. Pick your set of modules.
And we're at coro.net if you want to know more.
And of course, we'll include links to Dror's profile and to the Coro website. And hope everybody connects with you and gets started. So
thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us.